Hey everybody, it's Sean from OUTTAKE ESL. What I want to take a look at today is a presentation I did for advanced levels, or it'd probably be best for a situation like an English corner where you have a mixture of different proficiency levels. But it also could be used in maybe a university classroom. It's kind of a fun presentation to do around this time of year in October in the fall, because it serves as a little bit of a lead-in to Halloween, or even if you would like to use it as sort of a Halloween presentation, you can do so with a little bit of adjustments. But it's called Strange Beasts, and it's kind of based on a book, and I'll go into that in just a second. But I'm pretty sure this book was kind of the inspiration for. It kind of ties into J.K. Rowling's her franchise, or her movies there called Fantastic Beasts. I don't know exactly what the title of her series is there, but I know it's the Harry Potter spinoff. And I kind of came across this material back in 2007, 2006, when I was kind of researching, looking into coming to China. So let's take a look at it. So most English corners or presentations, I like to start off with a discussion, and here I introduce the book that this was kind of inspired by. It's called The Chinese Bestiary. It's a translation of a manuscript, or kind of an encyclopedia, illustrated encyclopedia, that was made in China in 1597. And here's a translation by, I think his name is Richard Strasberg. Yeah, I believe so. But it's a really fun book. It's really imagined. It's kind of all based on mythical creatures that you might find in the mountains and seas of China. And it has a lot of drawings and illustrations in there that you can see definitely inspired J.K. Rowling's work on her movie series there. And I loved the book when I first read it. It was a lot of fun, and I bought a copy from my library and kind of kept it in the back of my mind all these years until I saw a good opportunity to bring it in the classroom. So it's best to start off these kinds of classes with a discussion. I kind of open the book up, show some illustrations, ask anybody if they know about it. I'm in China right now, and see if they're familiar with it. And then ask some questions. And what you can do here is you can kind of introduce one question and maybe turn it over to the entire group. And it's best to kind of have little groups of people around the classroom, or pairs, and they can talk over the question themselves. Or if you're kind of rushed for time, you might just kind of solicit answers randomly from different members of the classroom, just to kind of get the program moving along a bit faster. So the first question was, what makes a beast strange to you? Appearance, habits, environment. Second question, what are some of the strangest beasts that you know of? What is the strangest beast that you have ever seen? Where did you see it? And in this presentation, I like to work with mythical beasts and also real beasts. Do you feel scared or curious when you see strange beasts? Why? So 4 questions. I usually keep it to 4 questions, and I like to, in all of my presentations or all my PPTs, I typically load these kinds of questions in there as a standard text, a standard font that I can edit, the day of the class, or during the class even, if I find the questions a little strange or have changed in their meaning. So they're a little bit versatile. Otherwise, I load everything in here as a graphic. I load it all in there as an image through Photoshop, and I like to use specialized fonts to kind of give my presentations a little more aesthetic to them. And things like the book cover, you just kind of save it as I might scan it on my printer, get the PDF file, take the snapshot, and then load it in there as an image. So after discussion, I like to start off with a lecture. Now the audio, there actually is a lot of audio work that I put into these PPTs, and I just kind of keep it really low volume during the presentation. Here I've taken a lot of the sound effects out, so I can present it here as a video. The software I'm using, OBS, which is a great software. I'm really grateful to have it. But I really haven't found a way to get a good mix yet with the internal audio and the external audio. So I decided to just kind of go through for the time being until I can figure something out to mix it a little bit better. Because what's happening is is the internal audio is coming off way too strong and drowning out all the external audio. But anyway, that being said, there's a lot of sound effects in here. I use a lot of the some recordings of what people believe to be the actual sounds of Bigfoot in the woods, actual audio recordings of that. And right there, you heard a excerpt from a Nantong temple band that I had heard when I was in Nantong, and I went down there and recorded it with my phone and brought it back here as an audio thing and threw it in there as kind of a fun reference. And I start off this exercise with my first exercise here, and these are actually real beasts that are kind of weird. I have a quick list here: a warthog, an aye-aye, a devilfish, a naked mole rat, a Meishan pig, and a blobfish, to kind of show them. They don't have the ideas that they don't know what they are, and they're guessing. Like, what do you think this is? Oh, it's an aye-aye. Okay, so what do you think this is? What is it? Anybody? Devilfish, yeah, very good. Funny creature, it's actually very small. Anybody know what this is? Anybody know what this is? And what do you want to think? Guess. And you can make it like a game, maybe give points out for different teams or something like that if they guess correctly, or even little prizes, stickers, and something like that. For adults, maybe something a little more different. But here is a warthog, and people are a little more familiar with the warthog just because of the Lion King. And this creature here, the blobfish, is kind of good to fun to note that there's a poll that you can find online, which is kind of polls the ugliest creatures on the planet, and the blobfish has kind of won consecutively year after year. So it's kind of fun to bring that up. As a fun fact, I got a naked mole rat in there, a Meishan pig. This is kind of interesting because in China they have 4 great novels, and one of those great novels is Journey to the West, or the story of the Monkey King, essentially. And one of the characters in there is actually based on a Meishan pig. So most of the Chinese will recognize this creature. And then, kind of just as a fun joke, I like to throw this picture in there. Anybody know what this creature is? What's this creature? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no, this is the Laoway. The Laoway. Let's put that in there. Then I move on to this exercise here. It's something I kind of did for fun. I grew up around hunters in New York, and it was always kind of a common joke is that, amongst the trophy deer heads on the walls, there would be maybe this little rabbit head with the deer antlers on it, and everybody, if you're a young kid wondering what that was, is, oh, that's a jackalope. You don't know what a jackalope? You've never seen a jackalope? It's just kind of a running joke, running based on a piece of taxidermy, kind of and so I thought of that when I came up with this exercise. I went on the internet and I found a bunch of photoshopped creatures. And I kind of have set up this kind of zoo here. I made little gates, and I made the clipboard and all the font there written on it. And made a little strange beast warning sign over it. You open it up with a screeching gate, and I see this animal here. And the first thing I do here is just kind of work with animal vocabulary, classifying. And I wanted this presentation to kind of be like a scientist studying beasts, kind of put you in that, I want it to be immersive, and I wanted people to kind of be in that role play, the idea of that they're trying to name different kinds of creatures. So we find it's a rabbit, and what else? A deer, rabbit, deer. Okay, so it's not a rabbit, and it's not a deer, so what do you want to name it? So we're trying to think of different names here, and this is kind of the creative part of it. So to give them a kind of a prompt. I don't say jackalope here because that's a little bit, they wouldn't understand that. So I say something like a rabbit or a dabbit. Let's call it a dabbit. All right, now it's your turn. What do you see here? All right, I see a crocodile or alligator and a parrot. All right, so we want to call it a crocorot, or a paradile or something like that. You just kind of have fun with it. So, once again, a lot of the sounds, all that, the gate, I keep that in there. I took all that out, and there's actually a writing writing sound as the clipboard, as the names come across the clipboard. There's a writing sound in there. And okay, what do you see here? Squirrel and a rhino, so a rhino-whirl, or a squarosaurus. More creatures: turtle, cricket, also probably grasshopper. Here you got your dog and you got your chimpanzee. It's good to kind of, if it's an advanced students, you probably want to start to stress things like rhinoceros. Its proper name, its full name, because most likely they're going to know rhino. And here, most likely they're going to know monkey and not know chimpanzee. So it's good to try and start to introduce the more accurate descriptions. You got a lion and a kangaroo freezing up. Breathing. Hold on a second. Got a lion and a kangaroo. Got your frog and your hippopotamus. Once again, try and give them the full name, full proper name. Try and start to reinforce that or introduce it even, just so it's not always the abbreviated name or the nickname. If they're advanced students, something they should start to familiarize themselves with. And then I go into kind of sort of creatures that could be real or not real. Introduce real creatures, and now I want to talk a little bit about unreal creatures. And it kind of ties back into the last exercise too, could be real, could not be real. We're talking about realness. And start off with a quick little discussion. Can you think of any other strange creatures that may or may not be real? What are they? Why are people unsure if they are real? Do you think there are many creatures yet to be discovered in the world? Why or why not? Here, you just want to keep these discussions, these kind of quick discussions, 2 questions, something like that, if you're introducing a new subject. And here I get into a reading exercise. This is a reading exercise that I took from a Headways book that I came across in one of my universities once. And I kind of liked it, so I kind of kept hold of it, kind of scanned it, took the Photoshop, took a snapshot, and then put it in Photoshop and sort of created a little article, a ripped article out of it. And it's basically about the folklore or mythical creature called the Jersey Devil and the Lizard Man in the United States. So here I would have a handout, and usually I have a handout with 2 sides on it. To save paper, I'll put maybe something on one side and something on the other side. Here I put the reading on one side, and I'll hand that out. Usually I'll try and keep it to like 1 copy for every pair. Because it's too many copies to do, 1 for every person. So you give them 5 minutes, 5, 10, 7 minutes, something to read it, and then you kind of do a quick kind of review of what they read, and name the creatures from the reading. Kind of ties back into the exercise of, okay, so it's a gorilla and a man. This was the Dover Demon, okay. Remember, they talked about, in the article, they talked something that was kind of a kangaroo and a horse. What do you think what creature was that? Okay, its name was the Jersey Devil. And then they talked a little bit about a lizard and a man. What do we think that was? That was a lizard man. Good. Okay. Now, another creature that people think is real in folklore, and probably the most famous, is called the Loch Ness Monster. Does anybody know about the Loch Ness Monster? And I show them the most famous photographs of that. See if anybody knows them. And then I do this exercise, though I skip it sometimes. This was actually a Wall Street English exercise that I completely reformatted, and I don't really like it, just the way it kind of presents the material. But what you do here is you give the class a bunch of questions, or 4 questions. What is the Loch Ness Monster? Where is it? When did people first see it? And have scientists ever found any proof of it? Give them those questions, and then you kind of give them 5 minutes to do research on their phones and come up with answers, or talk amongst themselves and answer as much and as thoroughly they can answer the questions. Then you go back around and you see who had the answers. Once you see how they did, you can go over the answers here. And I show them a map of Loch Ness. It's a lake. And give them the answers. The Loch Ness Monster is a large unknown animal. Supposedly lives in a lake. Loch Ness is a famous lake in Scotland. A couple saw the nearest thing to a dragon when they were in a boat. And no proof has been found of the monster. And then to tie in with that, I kind of wanted to talk about something that maybe they knew of in China. And instead of talking about Bigfoot, I found an article, I found some information about a creature called the Yeren. And this was kind of new to me. I wasn't aware of the Yeren. But on the flip side of that reading article, once again, this is frozen up here, so I'm kind of waiting for it to unfreeze. The flip side of the Headways article, I'll have this article about the Yeren. And there you go. I'll have this article about the Yeren. Got some photos of it here. And then I'll ask a quick little discussion. Anybody ever heard of the Yeren? Can anybody tell me what it is? Okay, read a little bit about it. It's kind of a fun thing. It's kind of an interesting creature. I was pretty fascinated to know that there was that in Hubei province there was this story of the Yeren that existed, and it might be a great idea for a film. Anybody out there? Quick little discussion. Do you believe there is a Yeren in the mountains of Hubei? If there is, what should be done about it? What would you do if you saw the Yeren while hiking in the mountains of Hubei? And would you donate money towards the research and discovery of the Yeren? Why or why not? And here's kind of a fun thing these days to kind of say, I haven't, do your GoFundMe account or your Patreon account. You can all right, because if you want to donate, you can go around with a hat. If you'd like to donate, I'd love to go out there and find this thing. And then to kind of follow up with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about unreal monsters or unreal beasts, and I start here with the famous movie monsters in a magazine called Fantastic Monsters that I kind of grew up with. I grew up with the B movies, big fan of those. I grew up in the '60s, but I was a big fan of these big fan of the B movies, and this was a magazine I was very familiar with. So I kind of wanted to talk about that here. Open up the magazine. Do monster movies scare you? Why or why not? What's the scariest monster movie you can think of? Why is it the scariest? What kinds of monsters are scary? Ones from space or ones from Earth? And if you saw a movie monster in real life, what would you do? And if I have time, I'd like to show this quick clip from one of my favorite movie monster makers, Ray Harryhausen, stop motion animation. Really a marvel of cinematic work, visual effects that really doesn't have a parallel these days with computer generated images. Immense amount of time was put into these films, making these little creatures work, and Ray Harryhausen was one of the greats. And I remember, trying to emulate his work when I was growing up before CGI came into play. And just an immense amount of time consuming that was, and how it just kind of kept you focused, and you really had to focus on these little movements and things, and you never was quite sure if it came through. You might have spent the whole night, a whole day or two coming up with a 5-second shot, and then realize in the processing that there was nothing on the film. So it was one of those really make or break things. It taught you really a lot about about patience and tolerance and craftsmanship. So Ray Harryhausen, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, is probably one of his more famous works. I wrote a clip in here, and like I've said in some of my other videos, sometimes the link is broke. So it's kind of, if you're going to do this kind of things with loading videos, I find it's best to kind of make sure you have a physical copy of the video, because sometimes you'll find it won't work within the PPT, so you have to go out of the PPT and show the clip if you really want it to happen. If that's really essential to your presentation, you're going to have to go out of the PPT and kind of load it up in just in a video player. But let's see if it's going to work for me here. Weird pause right now as it loads. Once again, like the link, or I find what also works is like reloading the link and then checking it on the system that you're going to be using it on. What happens is you'll your system won't be compatible with the one at the school, or it won't be compatible with the training centers or something like that. So you need to sort of go in there and check it. And sometimes that requires resetting links for whatever reason. It breaks the link. Taking a lot of time here. Usually loads up though. Let me see here. There's that beach ball of death. Beach ball of death. Spinning, spinning, spinning. My own system here is giving me a lot of trouble. So there we go. I'm gonna get some. I can show you a little bit of it here, how this works. And this is kind of a, because I have the theater set up and I have the screen set up in my, in my presentations. It's just something I can always bring back and just kind of, put different clips into the screen, into the slide, based on whatever topic I'm looking at or talking about. Oh, it doesn't want to play now. It's loading. We push play. Oh, there it is. Now it's working. I can hear it a little bit. Hey, there we go. Yeah, let's take a look at a little bit of that.
To the boats, quickly! From the world past hope and fear.
This is really genius stuff by Ray Harry. It's actually quite a long clip, so this would be something I most likely would skip, because most English go about 50 minutes, 45, 50 minutes, about the length of the class. And then I just kind of have a run-up, follow-up kind of comprehension exercise. This is a little bit too small. This is something I needed to reformat. So I definitely would probably over this. But what I need to do here is maybe just take one question and highlight one question. I tried to put all 6 questions on one slide, and that's too much information to be, legible. But anyway, I give 3 questions here. I think what is the first? There wasn't a lot of dialogue in that clip either, so I found myself really sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel for questions. So I got 6 questions here, 1, 2, 3, or 5 questions here. Like I said, this would be best reformatted into like 1 question at a time, maybe do 3 questions or something like that, just to comprehension, see if they understood the clip, or they were interpreting some of the language that was used in the clip. Really just kind of do it to pay homage to Ray Harryhausen. That's why I put that in there, and to introduce the idea of movie monsters. But this is actually a contest that was in Fantastic Monsters. It was called the Nameless Monster, and it ties back into naming things. And I show them different creatures from the magazine, and I try and get them. So here I maybe have a contest, have each group come up with a name, write the names on the board, and maybe vote. Which one do you think is the best? Different groups. What do you give them a quick minute or something? Come up with a name. Come up with a name. What's a name? 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 Write them on the board. What do you think is the best? Boom, point for you. Of course, it's hard. You can't vote for your own. You can't. You got to sit down a rule like you can't vote for your own. Name. What's the best? What's the best? And here I put a lot in here. I put maybe 8 in here, and it's best to only do 3, 4. If it's boring. Maybe choose ones. Now that's kind of the tie-in, the wrap-up of this presentation. I like to do this exercise here, and here I'll just give them a blank piece of paper, and say, okay, now you've seen some movie monsters, like you come up with your own monster, your own strange beast, and your own fantastic monster. And as a group, they can draw it and give us and then I ask them to come up with a name and a story about it. And then with the time left in the presentation, I'll have each group come up and present their monster. And then I'll have a vote for which creature they thought was the best. And then usually I have some kind of prize or something to give to the group that has been voted the best monster. And that's pretty much how the entire presentation goes. All right, and that's usually how I wrap things up. It's a fun presentation. I have a lot of fun with it. That exercise of kind of having people draw their own monster, that's a pretty typical exercise or activity in EFL classrooms. And I just thought it was kind of a good way of framing that and kind of getting them immersed in the idea of, like, having ideas about different creatures and different animals and putting them together to kind of create their own. So that's Strange Beasts. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. If there's anything you'd like to tell me about this presentation, or you have anything you'd like to add, or anything that I missed, I'd love to know that. Please please let me know in the comments below. And that's all for today. So thanks for watching. This is OUTTAKE ESL, and we will talk to you later.